We can hear you good.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to do a screen share then. Start this off. Okay, thank you for everybody who's there today. Sorry I'm not able to attend. My daughter and I both got COVID, so I'm not there here, but I'll be doing the presentation remotely. So how we'll have this set up is we'll have a short presentation. This might look similar to the presentations if you've been following along with BOC. And then there are 6 different workshops or tables that you can go around, fill out. There's a SWOT analysis, and then there's also a piece of paper that you should have picked up. It's at the front of the room. So once we're done with this, please fill that out and then drop it with either one of the staff or at the front of the room as well. All right, so today we'll be talking about Johns Pass Village Activity Center zoning, and this is the first workshop that we have. So a little bit about the Activity Center, why this is created. It's really to protect the character of the village. We want to make sure that there is compatible redevelopment that enhances and fits the character of down in the village. We must be consistent with the countywide plan. And this is really proactive instead of reactive planning. A little bit of the relationship with the local land regulations. We have the county with the countywide plan. They have their rules, their strategy, and they also have a map. And then locally, we have 2 things. We have our comprehensive plan, where we'll be looking really at the future land use element and the corresponding map. And then we have the Madeira Beach Code of Ordinances, which contains the land development regulations, which has the zoning districts, and then the corresponding zoning map. So today we're really focusing on that bottom tier with the land development regulations and the zoning districts, but just so you kind of get oriented of where that is, where those powers come from. They all have to be corresponding and talking to each other. So at the county's level, what they really have in their rules and their land use categories is pretty basic. It's intensity, density, impervious surface ratios. So the ratio between, say, like a building and concrete to the land area, and also the uses. So our future land use element, which is in our comprehensive plan, looks very similar. It's pretty basic, has the uses, impervious surface ratio, the intensities, densities. But then where we go to the Code of Ordinances, which we'll be focusing on today, we have the land development regulations and the zoning districts. So in the land development regulations, you have things like accessory structures, pools and sidewalks and driveways. And then in the zoning districts, you have your setbacks and heights. So looking at these maps, you can see the county's map on the left side. And then our corresponding maps, our future land use map, that's in our comprehensive plan, that's on the bottom right. And then our zoning map, which is what we're focusing on today, and that's in the top right. So all of these categories have to relate to each other. We cannot be more intense than the county. We can be less intense than the county with intensity, density, all of that. So they all have to talk and coordinate with each other. So stepping back to just the countywide plan and the future land use, which is in our comprehensive plan. So just these top 2, not the zoning. Here are those maps side by side and the intensities and densities. And this is why we're going for the activity center land use. So in the county's plan, the intensity and density is lower than what we have in our comprehensive plan. And what's built in this area in Johns Pass Village area does not meet those lower standards in the countywide plan. And we want to make sure that what's built in Johns Pass meets the criteria of the code, and also that if there's any new development, that it really matches that character. Because we understand it's unique, and our comprehensive plan also calls out that it's unique, something that needs to be saved. So that's really the bottom line of where this came from. So what the activity center looks like at the county and our future land use or comprehensive plan level, they just look like one type. It's just activity center category. But as we know, areas on 133rd look very different than things on Boardwalk Place. It looks different than Pelican Lane. So we understand that there's a lot of different types of development within this area. So we want to make sure that we capture that and that we don't give the same intensities, densities, the same setbacks, what's on Boardwalk than what's on 131st. So that's why we created these 6 character districts to really drive in that these areas look different and they should have different standards in the future land use as well as the zoning. So these will be, this is in our special area plan that is linked to the comprehensive plan. It's a 70-page document. You're welcome to read it. It's on our website. But these character districts will be then created as zoning districts. And so that's what we're really focusing on today, is the creation of these zoning districts in our Code of Ordinances. So at the countywide plan map, this is what that looks like if this is adopted. And in our future land use map, which is in our comprehensive plan, this is what the existing and proposed would look like. And then our zoning map, what this would look like. So on the left side is the existing zoning map. There's various zones in there. And then we are proposing 6 different new zoning districts. And here are the proposed standards for the intensities and densities. And we've talked about this at various BOC meetings and Planning Commission meetings. So this is currently going to the county for them to vote on it, and then it'll come back to BOC for final reading and decision on the activity center at the comprehensive plan. The Madeira Beach Code of Ordinances, there's a lot of things in the Code of Ordinances, but the things that we will be focusing on are really the land development regulations and the zoning districts. So the zoning districts are within the land development regulations, but the zoning districts really focus on the setbacks, the height, the impervious surface ratio, and then it also includes special requirements. And these special requirements can vary. So one of the special requirements can be design standards. It's important to note that we're not allowed to put design standards for single family and duplexes. And these design standards can be architectural features. Another example would be buffering requirements. We have this in a few of our zoning districts, but they're used in zone-specific landscaping. And then in the land development regulations that's not in the zoning districts, it's like your landscape requirements, your sidewalks, your driveways, your accessory structures, like if you can put up a tiki hut, where could that be? How big could it be? Your parking standards, and another example, swimming pools. So an example of just the zoning district standards, just looking at that, we're going to take C1 zoning for an example. Now C1 zoning, the zoning district is this pink, this light pink area, just so you can get an idea. So this is what's written in our code right now for the C1 zoning district. The setbacks in the front, this is the front, are none. Side yard, 10 feet on one side. In the rear, it's 25 feet. So here are your setbacks. The height is 34 feet. Now we measure height from design flood elevation. And what that means is that's base flood elevation with your flood maps, plus our freeboard, which is 4 feet. So typically that means that you're measuring from your second story. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes it's a little hard to imagine, but your 34 feet is really starting at that second floor. And the floor area ratio is 0.55 for commercial uses. So you put all those things together, what does that look like? Well, you get a building that looks like this dark block. Well, and we know that that does not match what's down there in this C1 zoning district. And so that's why we're going to the activity center land use change, as well as creating those zoning districts to really capture what's down there and see what's important with that character, and codifying that in the zoning districts. So another example, we'll take R3 zoning. Let me show you where this is on the map. This R3 zoning district is this brown color. It's on the west side of Gulf Boulevard. You also have it up here in Pelican. So looking at the zoning district, what we have in there is front yard. So the front yard is on the side for this building, 20 to 25 feet. And this is dependent on the use and the width of the lot. So for this lot, we took an example here, the setback would be 20 feet. The side yard is 5 to 10 feet. Also depends on the use and the width of the lot. The rear yard is the coastal construction control line. So if you're on the beach, you'll have the CCCL line and you can build to that line. Or if you're not, say in this example, maybe 25 feet of a setback for your rear yard. And now the height in the R3 zoning is up to 44 feet. You can see this where that measurement starts at that second story. And the floor area ratio is 0.55 for commercial use only. So here are just two examples. Now these images are very rough images. It's not including the landscape requirements, impervious surface ratio. Just wanted to get you an idea of what those setbacks and height kind of looks like. So in our special area plan and throughout this process, we're really going to focus on the planning and urban design principles. And in the comprehensive plan, it supports the special character and unique design of Johns Pass Village and the boardwalk. The countywide strategy plans, it requires certain design principles to be addressed, and this is with the activity center land use change, is the location, size and density intensity standards, connectivity, site orientation, public realm enhancements, ground floor design and use, and the transition to neighborhoods. So keep this in mind when you're going through the stations. We'll put this on as one of the slides up on the TV when you're walking around. Just kind of keep these in mind while you're filling out that SWOT information. So where we are right now in this process with the future land use as well as the county's plan, the next meeting on that is the county's meeting, and that is on February the 20th. And everyone's encouraged to attend that meeting. But this is to amend the countywide plan to establish that Johns Pass Village Activity Center on their plan map and on their land use strategy map. And so after that, that goes forward, then the land use will come back locally to the BOC, and we're expecting to be at the March BOC meeting, and that will be the final action on the Johns Pass Village Activity Center on our map. And then from there, we have to establish those zoning districts in our land development regulations. And that's what the input that we're trying to get today is, to help us establish these zoning districts and get public input. We do have 3 public workshops right now. You're at the first one, so you're a little bit of our guinea pigs. All of these workshops will be the same exact thing. We ask you to fill out your email on the piece of paper that you received today. This piece of paper that you received on the first page, it has a place on there to provide your email. So if you want to get contacted about any changes to these workshops, we would love to tell you, and just to have any information on future workshops that we have available. And from here we have, you can get up, mix and mingle. There are 6 different stations. Each 6 different stations are corresponding to these character districts. Let's go to this page. To these character districts. So go and visit each table. We have a SWOT analysis, so you can fill out any strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of each of these districts. Nothing's the wrong answer. So right away, we have markers set out. We also have some pictures of what those areas look like on the ground, so you can get a better idea if you can't think of where those districts are. And then we also have that piece of paper that you picked up, hopefully when you walked through the door. Please fill that out. That shows you the setbacks and the heights of each of these zoning districts, and then has a place for you to write out your ideas of what could be the setbacks, the heights, as well as any special requirements, including design standards, buffering requirements. Go crazy. Write everything. We want as much input from you as possible. Just try and keep it that we're looking at land development regulations and zoning districts, but write anything that comes to your mind. But first we will be working on the zoning districts, and then eventually addressing the rest of our land development regulations in respects to that. And that is all I have. I will be here for questions, but please feel free to talk to all the staff there of any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Jenny that they want to ask right now?
Or we'll just get going. And if you guys want, the theory was you guys could get up and go to the stations, kind of look at the pictures we have out, use the markers to fill in any strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, whatever you guys are thinking. If you have any questions for us, if you'd like to, I was thinking too, if you wanted to fill out the paper now or take it home, do some research and get it back to us via email, dropping it off, whatever you guys would like to do. But this is y'all's opportunity to kind of express what you guys are thinking, and we're here for that. So.